All right, I am showing 11 o'clock. That means that it is time to get this party started. Welcome to Unity of Joplin. If you are a seasoned vet with Unity of Joplin, we are excited and thrilled to see you again. If you have stumbled upon us accidentally, we are excited that you're here. And that you have found us, and welcome. This is Unity of Joplin in Joplin, Missouri. So we ask that if you are watching our service this morning, that you help us a little bit with engagement, and you share with your friends, whether as a watch party or just sharing on your feed, and most especially comment. Let us know if there's a part of the service that's particularly meaningful for you, that you are loving, and we would appreciate that a great deal. So it looks like we are going to start off this morning with a video, and I'm always excited to see these videos, so kick her off.
1, 2, 3. Your love is deep. Your love is high. Your love is long. It's wide. Your love is deep. Your love is high. Your love is long. Your love is wide. Say that again. Your love is deep. Your love is high. Your love is long. Your love is wide. Your love is deep. Your love is high, your love is long, your love is wide, deeper. Your love is deeper than my view of grace, higher than this worldly place, longer than this road I travel, wider than the gap you filled, deeper than my view of grace, higher than this worldly place, longer than this road I travel, wider than the gap you fill. Your love is deep. Your love is high. Your love is long. Your love is wide. Your love is deep. Your love is high. Your love is long. Your love is wide, deeper. Your love is deeper than my view of grace, higher than this worldly place, longer than this road I travel, wider than the gap you filled, deeper than my view of grace, higher than this worldly place, longer than this road I travel, wider than the gap you filled. And who shall separate us? Who shall separate us? Who shall separate us from your love? Nothing can separate us. Nothing can separate us. Nothing can separate us from your love. 'Cause your love is deep. All right, let me hear you. Your love is long. Your love is wide. All right, here we go. Your love is deep. Your love is long. Your love is wide. Sing that again. Your love is deep. Your love is high. Your love is long. Your love is wide. Say it again. Your love is deep. Your love is high. Your love is long. Your love is wide. Your love is deep. Yeah. Good job, everybody.
Wow, that was absolutely gorgeous. Here's what I loved about that song, everything, but most of all, I think I love that baby just saying, hi, that was adorable. My goodness, that is a baby after my own heart and feeling that music in a deep, deep way. It is time to introduce our celebration team. Our music today and production is going to be provided by Gary and Jerry, John, and our own Michael. So we appreciate them so much because music is something that makes me feel high and right. So I'm so grateful that we have the music team that we have and that Michael helps them along with media and tech. The trustee of the day and chat box moderator is right here next to me. This is my very handsome hubby, Jefferson. He is the president of the board and will answer all of your questions and thoughts and any information you're seeking today in the chat on Facebook. I did not introduce myself earlier, and shame on me. I'm the platform assistant for today. My name is Neely Myers, and as always, it's a pleasure to be with you. And then our meditation and a lesson is going to be from Eliasa today because Gordon is in the beautiful Southwest in New Mexico, and we are happy to have Eliasa with us this morning. I think another thing I loved about that song was watching Eliasa sing it and just with her arms in the air and so much joy. That was the first time I'd heard it. Obviously not the first time you've heard it. So thank you for your joy. We do have some announcements, and I ask that you be patient with me because there are some of the things that I'm not super familiar with. So if you need to jump in, whomever, Michael or whomever, and let us know more information. We also ask for your grace and patience today. We have a lot of information we want to share, and it's all important. So we may run over a little bit, but we ask that if you're available, you stay with us. So we have in our house been participating in Meatless Mondays, and it's been amazing. It makes a huge impact on the earth if we just one day a week go meatless. If you are vegetarian and vegan all the time, that's fantastic. Not all of us are. In fact, I would say most of us probably are not. And so just the one day. And if you're not really sure where to get started and you need recipes, you can find those at unityofjoplin.org. But now we are asking, and I'm guessing we're going to use those bits of information. Go back one if you would, Michael. I'm guessing we're going to use those bits of information on our social media. So if you have been doing the Meatless Mondays, send an email to Michael at the office at unityofjoplin.org and just say, I choose to go meatless at least one day a week because. And I'm guessing we're going to, again, create those as social media posts and maybe encourage others along on that journey. One thing I didn't say, I did let you know that if you need ideas, you may go to the website and find those. If you have recipes, please feel free to share those as well because we're always looking for new ideas. Yeah, did I hit everything there?
Yeah, subject line meatless on those emails would help me a ton.
There you go, subject line meatless. And just let us know why you've chosen to participate. We'd love to hear it. I plan on doing that later this afternoon. We also have a Can Co-op, which I just think is, I'm all about alliteration. I love that name. So we are about loving our planet and loving our neighbors. We have some folks in our neighborhood who maybe don't have a home, unhomed folks, and they are looking for cans to recycle. First of all, this hits a couple of buttons, right? It hits the recycling button and it also hits the helping out our unhoused neighbors. So if you have cans that you don't recycle at home, you may leave those separately bagged, please, so that they don't have to dig through our trash to get those. There is a receptacle behind the church where you can leave those cans.
Yeah, I mean, it's as easy for a lot of people as just separating it out by your trash in your alley if you live in town and have a large population on the street, or you can bring them here and our neighbors will take care of it, or last resort, we'll take them in and recycle them.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Easter Sunday, I am so excited. We're going to be together in person at the church, but outdoors. Let's all pray together for beautiful weather. Even if it's a little chilly, we can wrap up and jacket up and we'll be fine. But we are going to be on the south lawn. We ask that you bring your own chairs and blankets. And if you would like to volunteer for that day, contact the office. Is that who they contact?
We are good with volunteers. Just come and be present and be excited. We'll be doing a lot of air hugs, I'm sure, and we'll just be grateful to be together.
Air fives. I can do air fives. I can do air hugs, air kisses. We're good at all those things. But yeah, we really just want to see you. So please come and enjoy Easter Sunday with us in person at the church. Bring a chair or blanket. If you're a floor sitter like Sam and I are, you can bring a blanket, and that's fine too. We are reopening the church as well on May 2nd. There will be limited seating, but you may check your email to register. I'm guessing register for the limited seating is what that means?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously within your family group, you don't have to separate, but we will be separating folks around the sanctuary. So we ask that you register. There should be an email, right? And then after the lesson, stay tuned. As I said, we might run a little long today, but just give us that grace and know that it's all as it should be and all important. And then stay tuned after the lesson for a message from Gordon and John. If they show the Southwest behind them, if they're sitting outside, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I am just green with envy, but I'm looking forward to hearing what their message is. So,
not grandson John, John Radford.
Oh, it is John Radford. Well, okay. So nonetheless, an important message from Gordon and John. I assumed it was his grandson.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, an important bit of information. So stick around with us after the service for that. And also we'll have some virtual fellowship. So if you'd like to stick around for a moment and just gab, we'd love for you to do that as well. And there will be folks online to gab with you. How about a little inspiration for the day, Kim? Palm Sunday. Happy Palm Sunday. I should have said that right off the bat, but Kim is going to keep it real with a little Palm Sunday message for us.
The reading today is from John chapter 12, verses 12 through 50. The next day, the great crowd that had come to the festival heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. So they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter of Zion. Look, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt." His disciples did not understand these things at first, but when Jesus was glorified, then they remembered that these things had been written of him and had been done to him. So the crowd that had been with him when he called Lazarus out of the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to testify. It was also because they heard that he had performed this sign that the crowd went to meet him. The Pharisees then said to one another, "You see, you can do nothing. Look, the world has gone after him." Now among those who went up to worship at the festival were some Greeks. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and said to him, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Philip went and told Andrew. Then Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. Jesus answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly, I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their life lose it, and those who hate their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there will be my servant also. Whoever serves me, the Father will honor. Now my soul is troubled. And what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it is for this reason that I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven. I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. The crowd standing there heard it and said that it was thunder. Others said, an angel has spoken to him. Jesus answered, this voice has come for your sake, not for mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. He said this to indicate the kind of death he was to die. The crowd answered him, we have heard from the law that the Messiah remains forever. How can you say that the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Jesus said to them, the light is with you for a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, so that the darkness may not overtake you. If you walk in the darkness, you do not know where you are going. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you may become children of the light. After Jesus had said this, he departed and hid from them. Although he had performed so many signs in their presence, they did not believe in him. This was to fulfill the word spoken by the prophet Isaiah. Lord, who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? And so they could not believe, because Isaiah also said, he has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, so that they might not look with their eyes and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. Isaiah said this because he saw his glory and spoke about him. Nevertheless, many, even of the authorities, believed in him. But because of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, for fear that they would be put out of the synagogue, for they loved human glory more than the glory that comes from God. Then Jesus cried aloud, whoever believes in me believes not in me, but in him who sent me. And whoever sees me sees him who sent me. I have come as a light into the world, so that everyone who believes in me should not remain in the darkness. I do not judge anyone who hears my words and does not keep them, for I came not to judge the world, but to save the world. The one who rejects me and does not receive my word as a judge, on the last day, the word that I have spoken will serve as judge. For I have not spoken on my own, but the Father who sent me has himself given me a commandment about what to say and what to speak. And I know that his commandment is eternal life. What I speak, therefore, I speak just as the Father has told me. Palm Sunday is the Sunday preceding Easter. Jerusalem, the holy city, symbolizes within us the habitation of peace, possession of peace, vision of peace, abode of prosperity within us. In man, Jerusalem is the abiding consciousness of spiritual peace, which is the result of continuous realizations of spiritual power, tempered with spiritual poise and confidence. Jerusalem symbolizes the great nerve center just back of the heart. From this point, spirit sends its radiance to all parts of the body. Jesus symbolizes our I am identity. His going up to Jerusalem means our taking the last step in unfoldment, preparatory to the final step, when the personality is entirely crucified and the Christ triumphs. Jesus riding the ass into Jerusalem means the fulfillment of the time when the spiritual I am within us takes control and lifts all the animal forces up to the spiritual plane of mastery, purity, and peace. When the I am takes charge of the body, a new order of things is inaugurated. The vitality is no longer wasted. Through high and pure ideals, the whole consciousness is raised to a higher standard. The hosannas of the rejoicing multitude and the spreading of their garments and branches of trees before Jesus represent joyful obedience and homage to all the thoughts in one's consciousness. Give when an error state of mind is overcome. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. In the name of Jesus Christ, I affirm, the spirit of him that raised up Jesus dwells in me, and I am made perfect.
Peace is flowing like a
Beautiful, just beautiful. Thank you, Gary, John, and Jerry. We appreciate you. And we appreciate Kim's reading of the daily word to prepare us to move into a time of meditation, a time of stillness. So we're going to do things a little different today. We're going to keep our eyes open. And I invite you to place your right hand over your heart, here on your chest, and to take a deep breath in. And as you do, you might even place your left hand on your belly, and I want you to feel your belly fill up. And when you breathe in this inhale, I want you to count to 4. Feel the suspension. And then as you exhale, count to 8. Feel your heart beating in your chest. It's a reminder, you are alive. You are here in this now moment. Look around you. What is the most beautiful thing that you can see right now? Look at it for a moment, taking another inhale and holding that for 4. And in that exhale of 8, notice its color and its shape, the way the light falls on it. And let yourself wonder at the animation of life. For no matter what is happening in our world around us right now, even in those dark moments, those violent moments, those cruel moments, we can return to this beautiful thing that is in your view right now. Inhale that in and exhale. The world right here is just as real as the world out there. Take another deep breath in. And as you release, notice it's easier. I want you to imagine as we take this moment, this thought, and your breath into the silence. Who can you share this beautiful thing? Inhale in and exhale. This is you, peace flowing like a river. We see something beautiful. We call it breathtaking. This is our breath giving. Us as compassion and love, and even more present than before. In this inhale of 4 and our exhale of 8, we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen and amen.
Let's see. Before we, yes, I am unmuted. We are about to hear an amazing song and then a wonderful lesson. But before we do, it is time to appreciate in advance all that we are about to receive with our sacred exchange. So there are several ways that you can do that. You can text give to the number on the screen. You can click the donate button at unityofjoplin.org, or if you are a good old-fashioned check writer, we will take that as well, and you may send it to the P.O. box that you see on the screen. Let's bless those gifts together. In a universe overflowing with the allness of God, all of the needs of Unity of Joplin and those we serve are bountifully met. From every direction, known and unknown, expected and unexpected, our abundant good is here now. And dedicate these offerings with me as well. These tithes and offerings are dedicated to the will and work of Spirit through Unity of Joplin for the highest good of all. And we know that they are, and we are so thankful.
The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Christ is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Christ is here, overflowing this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. Miracle can happen now, for the Spirit of the Christ is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Christ is here, overflowing this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love surrounds us. Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done here as in heaven. Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done here as in heaven. A miracle can happen now, for the Spirit of the Christ is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Christ is here. A miracle can happen now, for the Spirit of the Christ is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Christ is here.
Wow, we have very talented musicians and vocalists. Thank you, both of you. As we begin to conclude our series on revolutionary love, based on our book, See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love by Valerie Carr. We know for many of us the work has just begun, and we know the journey and the study does not end here today. Over the last few weeks, we have gathered in Carr's personal, very timely and rich story. We've been inspired, informed, and deepened our own practices of empathy and compassion as we have begun to understand the practical applications of spiritual and transformational principles. I like in that song that John just sung, he talked about evidence, the evidence of the Spirit of Christ, because this is love in action, the revolutionary love we're talking about. We are here today because we have chosen to enter into wonder and love for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves. We are here to heal and to transform what appears broken in this world of ours and the world around us. Valerie Carr's teachings from her Sikh tradition have much in common with unity, a practice of inclusion where we see no stranger and recognize our oneness with God and all creation. These lessons are comprehensive in that there is no separation between the spiritual and this human experience, the sacred and the profane. We recognize everything is sacred and calling us to see and to live according to spiritual principle in all matters. And finally, practical, that principle that is all about our demonstration, how we go forward and live the very best life that we can. It is through our daily practices, our life applications that are very personal, rooted in our joy and our force for justice that includes building our beloved community. The first part of our study was to see no stranger, to love others, to wonder about them, to be curious. And as we do, we grieve with them and we fight with and for them. And then we tend the wounds as we loved our seeming opponents. We looked at our own righteous rage, and then we generated a space for wonder and listening to our shared humanity, where our practice and understanding helps us to reimagine and create this revolutionary love. We recognize it's hard work. And as we try to understand our opponents, especially those who are actively trying to oppress us being that term of solidarity, recognizing no one is free until everyone is free. And what we resist will persist. When we are open, we are given opportunity. Isn't that right? Just 2 days ago, my daughter, 24 years old, many of you know her, she's biracial, comes home completely in this whirlwind of emotions and sharing an experience she had just down the road at the dollar store. And she comes home saying, for the first time ever in my life, I was called the N-word. In her hurried story, I listened and I comforted. And the question she asked me that really stuck is, why do we do the work? When people act like this, it's hard to fight for them. This is where I had to pause and take a breath. I said, yes. The work is not yours alone, my sweet girl. The load only lightens when we practice compassion. Compassion for the other, compassion for the opponent, self-compassion, the support of community. And it is a grounding in truth that includes the amazing healing power of love. So our author suggests, when listening gets hard, to focus on taking that next breath. Pay attention to the sensation in your body. Feel the ground beneath you and ask yourself, am I safe? And once your safety is assured, you slow your breath again. You quiet your mind and you release those pressures to defend your position, those questions of why. And instead we try to wonder about this other person's story and what wounds are in them that have added to it. All the while remembering that our listening into that shared humanity doesn't grant what they've said or done any legitimacy. It grants humanity. And in doing so, it preserves our own. To breathe and to push are those ideas rooted in learning to love ourselves through self-care and community support that sustains us for the long labor. We take that practice of breathing to its fullest expression. That's what we're exploring today, how we go even deeper. And then as we change, as we are changed, we birth a new reality. Our author, Carr, she describes breathing as an anchor for all of this work. Breathing is life-giving. In every breath, we take oxygen into our bodies to nourish and sustain us. And it's constant. Its rhythm moves within us, whether or not we are aware of it. When we pay attention to our breath, our minds are called to the present moment, present to emotion, present to sensation, present to surroundings, present to one another, present to ourselves. We just did our meditation a minute ago, and we focused in on something beautiful, paying attention to the now moment. Deep breathing is that paying attention to all of the sensations, because it increases our resilience, both physically and emotionally. It reduces our stress and our illness. Carr concludes that breathing is perhaps the most universally available wellness tool. The ability to notice and slow down our breath connects us to a sense of agency, even in dire circumstances, even when we cannot control anything else. We can consciously take one breath and then another, creating a space where we can think and see differently. I mean, physiologically, when we pause and we count to 10, and then we connect, that pause is mindful breathing. We're able to shift and respond to the situation from this frontal cortex rather than from the reptilian brain. I remember I had surgery a couple of years ago. I had a major surgery, and after the surgery, they gave me this thing that I had to breathe into. And at first I was just like, I was just wanting to raise the little bar up. But then I realized the goal wasn't just to make the little thing move up and down. The goal in the breath was to hold it. Short and mindful breathing, actually, this holding that moment enlivens and imaginations, awakens us to pleasure. It moves us toward our freedom and lets joy enter into our lives. Taking time to breathe mindfully, literally and metaphorically. It's a way to assert that our bodies are worthy and beloved. Thich Nhat Hanh said, loving our bodies is the first and primal act of loving ourselves. And when we love ourselves, we can extend love. To breathe is part of our animation, and it is a lifestyle we choose that integrates and embodies balance, self-care, and compassion. And our engagement with a beloved community and the collective work we do as revolutionary love. Valerie Carr has done a lot of meaningful work towards healing her own body. In her book, she'll talk about a teenage experience of sexual trauma. She talks about how that incapacitated her later in life through a severe bout of endometriosis. She describes that while her career was flourishing from the outside, stress was eating away at her on the inside. And when the diagnosis finally came, she scheduled surgery. And then when it came time to schedule the surgery, she just did like everything else, an event, and put it on a calendar. But here's where the breathing comes in. She put it on the calendar. And then Sunday morning, August 5th, 2012, there was this aerial view of a Sikh Gurdwara on the television screen, and the words streamed across, active shooter. This event was recording the most violent hate crime against the Sikhs in our US history. A white supremacist had entered a Sikh place of worship in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, and opened fire. We breathe on that. Carr described the first hours of this national meeting coverage showing images of turbaned men in tears. And the primary response of reporters and audience is not one of sympathy, but confusion. Who are these people? Reporters calling them Hindus, Muslims, foreigners, mispronouncing names, and misrepresenting beliefs. And then she goes on to share what it felt like showing up as an advocate for the Sikh community and how she grieved with the families of the dead, and how she goes on to ask us to hear their story, to grieve with the Sikh community, and in doing so, to know and to love them. And she admits that listening to a story about mass violence is labor, but notes that labor is bearable when we breathe together. So I'm going to introduce a piece of her story from her book. And this is just a piece of it. I would encourage you to pick up her book and explore it on your own. It's an outline of a powerful story. But before we do, let us anchor ourselves right now in taking a breath. Together, let's take a deep collective breath in and let it out. And that audible sigh, intentionally and mindfully grounding ourselves in body and mind into this present moment. accessing our connection to one another, to spirit, and to divine love. In and out. Like many of these Sikh centers, the Oak Creek facility was not a house of worship, not just only a house of worship, but also a community center bustling with activity. And families prayed, cooked, they argued, they counseled, children played in the hallways, elders scolding them, couples meeting and getting married, and babies being blessed. This Sunday morning, there were about 40 people present getting ready for the day's services. Aunties in the kitchen preparing the communal meal for the few hundred people who would soon arrive. In the living quarters, the other end of the center, uncles chatted as they tied their turbans. They wore their grantees, and they were trained in India, who lived and served in the Gurdwara for months or years at a time. They are leading the services and ceremonies in the kirtans. In the main hall, a few had gathered for quiet meditation, with children playing throughout the halls prior to their Sunday school classes beginning. 2 children were sitting on the front of the steps when a white man pulled up in a red truck. The man approached 2 of the Sikhs who were talking in the parking lot. And as they turned to greet the man, offer assistance, the children saw a gun flash and heard shots. These 2 men fell to the ground. The children ran inside crying. Someone killed the Babaji. Everyone began to hide in closets behind doors, escaping to the basement. And then Wade Michael Page, armed with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, entered and stalked through the building. We have to pause and breathe. The gunshots ceased. 7 were dead. 5 men and 1 woman, ranging in age from 39 to 84. Members of the Sikh temple. A 40-year-old white gunman who had shot himself in the head after being shot in the hip by a responding police officer. 4 others were wounded. One of them an officer who arrived on the scene, Lieutenant Brian Murphy. He was shot 15 times by Page, but he would survive. The woman who was killed was the mother of 2 sons, 18 and 20. The 84-year-old man was a grandfather. And the other 4 were these holy men that left behind wives and children, some still in India. And she reminds us to breathe. They begin to take up these crisis management roles that Carr describes, coordinating support of the interfaith partners, counseling families, directing little film teams to document the story as it's unfolding. And then as they recruited their teammates from around the country to help, what does Carr do? That surgery that she had planned, she cancels it because this experience is changing her life. And it's evolving in this crisis management into this practice of revolutionary love. These are more than victims of hate crimes. These are our brothers and sisters of the Sikh community. They were survivors, and they had something to teach to the rest of the United States about how to respond to violence, of white nationalism, socially, politically, spiritually, all of these pieces. And all of it began with being anchored in that breath. She talks about this colossal force of rage that rose within her. And she reminds herself that King, when somebody responded that King had said, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. That wasn't just enough, because King also said love was not emotional bosh, but sustained, committed action. So 4 days after the shooting, the Sikh community had insisted on doing this labor themselves. They were ready to be able to be brought back into the building. The FBI took down the tape. And when they walked in the door, there was a site of a massacre. There was blood staining the carpets. bullet holes in the walls. And we breathe. When a sacred place is ravaged, it's as if our bodies themselves have been violated. But then the prayers began, softly over the loudspeakers. Some of the aunties and uncles who had survived the shooting rolled up their sleeves and they got to work. Carr describes that the next few hours, I watched this community literally rebuild itself before my eyes, reciting and breathing. Vaheguru, 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 a mantra calling out to God to take them from the darkness to the light. They're restoring their temple, and they were restoring themselves. 5 days after the shooting, people filled the local high school gym, Sikhs in turbans, and Chuhinis and Raminas, and I might be mispronouncing these names, I apologize, but there was this flood of mostly white people from the local community, some dressed for church, others wearing Brewers and Packers t-shirts. Police officers in uniform, they tied on the turban, and Kaur was in awe. 3,000 people had come together to mourn with them. This was community building. Even the Attorney General had come to represent the White House. And as the crowd lined up to pay their respects to the dead, she asked that big question, what is all this for? This decade of advocacy, if not to prevent a massacre for this? And as she fell into the arms of her friend and fellow advocate, they hugged. And for one long moment, they let themselves breathe together. And her friend told her, we may not live to see the fruits of our labor in this lifetime, but we labor anyway. That Sunday, exactly 1 week after the shooting, the community reopened their temple, and the children of the dead organized a service in the same place their parents had been killed. And hundreds of Sikhs from all over the country, especially the Midwest, arrived because this was now a site of pilgrimage. And at the doorway to the Diwan Hall, a single bullet hole remained, and beneath it were these words, "We are one." August 5th, 2012. In this embodiment of the Sikh spirit, an act of defiance, a declaration that we are not going to be deterred from rising up. Even in those fleeting moments where young men whose parents had been killed, they wanted to go find this white power group that radicalized the man that came into their building and exact revenge. But when they got into that space of community, that impulse receded because they were surrounded by Sangha, surrounded by community. And in community, they breathed as one. They breathed their guilt and their rage and their grief, and they let it anchor them. And then they moved in to revolutionary love. They were allies. They had come together. It is now and now and now. That's moving from that moment with a capital M to moment with a capital M. That is a state of joyfulness inside the struggle. This energy that keeps us in motion and a breathing that keeps us laboring even inside the pain of labor. We heard that there was this breath, there was this push. Many of us, some of us have had children, and we know what that's like, you know? There's this immense labor and this pain, and then you're holding your child, and there's nothing but joy. It's like it's dissipated. It's that hope that is a feeling that wans and wanes, and that sometimes brilliantly and luminously, sometimes a faint sliver in the sky, and sometimes gone completely. But no matter what, or no matter how hopeless we feel, we can choose to return to that labor anyway. Because when we receive the gift of our labor, and sometimes we don't hang out there because it doesn't matter. But when we labor in love, labor is not only a means, but an end in itself. Cor goes back to return home. And then in just 3 months, there's another shooting. And in the wake of this shooting, they fly back to Connecticut and they begin to witness what is happening to their community. And she says, in the wake of the shooting, many people chose to wonder about us and hear our stories and share our pain. The Sikh community knew how to grieve together, and we made space for others to join us. In grieving together, we built bonds strong enough to organize together, and our allies followed our lead to fight for various social and policy changes. And along the way, we offered one another a safe container for rage. Rage for the gunmen and rage for the lawmakers who we felt that did nothing or not enough. And some of us had the ability to listen to people who helped us understand where that gunman's context was. And the information helped us to focus on the change we wanted to make, to hold our institutions, to be responsible for fanning a culture of hate, and we chose to reimagine. We go back to that reimagining, how our government prioritizes and responds to this hate violence, and how ultimately we respond. And then as we're doing that, we're helping one another breathe, taking care of one another in labor. So we breathe. There's still so much work to do. She says when they're heading back and they're getting ready to deal with something else, because she'd recently married her longtime paramour, Sharat, and they were going to go on a honeymoon. And she asked when the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary happened, where 20 children and 7 adults have been killed in a mass shooting, and said, what do we do? We cancel our honeymoon, what do we do? And his response was to her, repeating her own words back at her. He says, the way we make change is just as important as the change we make. Carr says, I looked up at Sharat. He says, this is your test. How much longer are you going to sacrifice your body, my body, for the cause? And in the quiet and in the breath, she remembered the American mystic and theologian, Thomas Merton. There is a pervasive form of contemporary violence to which the idealist most easily succumbs, activism and overwork, to allow oneself to be carried away by the multitude of conflicting concerns, surrender to too many demands, commit oneself to too many projects, and want to help everyone and everything is to succumb to violence. The frenzy or activism neutralizes our work for peace, and it destroys our own inner capacity for peace. It destroys the fruitfulness of our own work because it kills the root of an inner wisdom which makes work fruitful. Yes, we address what's that power, what needs our social justice in the moment. And after she did that, she recognized she's worked for a long time and worked at great speeds, and she had accustomed herself to breathlessness. So we can't just respond in our activism. We have to be that practice of revolutionary love. We have to pause in our breath, and we have to care for ourselves. She says, this is what I want you. You don't have to make yourself suffer in order to serve. You don't have to grind your bones into the ground, and you don't have to cut your life up into pieces and give yourself away until there's nothing left. You belong to a community and a broader movement. Your life has value. We need you alive. We need you to last, and you will not last if you are not breathing. Yes, caring for ourselves is not an act of self-indulgence or self-preservation. It is an act of revolutionary love. Activist professor Angela Davis said, "We must practice radical self-care for ourselves' longevity as we struggle. We are attempting to presage the world to come. If we don't start practicing collective self-care now, there is no way to imagine, much less reach a time of freedom." So what are we doing here right now? We must find ways to breathe life into the world we want here and now, establishing rhythms and asking, what can I do every day? What can I do every week? What can I do every month, every year? How are we going to labor? How are we going to breathe and push? Breathe and push. Carr recently wrote a letter I found on her Facebook of revolutionary love. And many of us, I would be willing to bet not all of us knew about the events of October 2012 that happened to the Sikh community. It might have, or we might have forgotten about it. But we want to bring this home and share that this revolutionary message, it is just as relevant as that story from 2012 about humanity, as relevant as my daughter's story 2 days ago. Just a week ago, we know that there was a shooting down in South, and it left 10 people dead. 1 man, 9 women, 7 women were Asian women. And Carr wrote this letter, and she called this letter a letter of revolutionary love. And she sent it to her sister, Bryn. And she says, what does this moment feel like? My Asian American sisters, it's been such a strange week for my body. Unbridled joy upon my parents' return, followed by grief and fatigue. I am so grateful my parents are here, and at the same time, their return is corresponding with the world opening up again. And it's a world where mass shootings happen, and I have to respond to them. Shannon and I were talking about mothering in the first months of the quarantine, and as hard as it was, we were secretly relieved that our sons, black and brown, were safe at home with us all the time and not out there, because the world is dangerous. Our country is violent. Quarantine was deferment. The last time Asian Americans were slaughtered on this scale was the mass shooting of Sikhs in Oak Creek in 2012. No president or vice president came for us. Not Barack Obama, not Joe Biden. And even when we begged them, even when I wrote a public letter begging them, they sent Michelle weeks later discreetly. And this time, the president and VP will visit Atlanta. This is our metric for progress. The nation is pulling us a little closer to recognition. The shootings have not changed. The hate has not changed. The white supremacy has not changed, but we have changed a little. The last 4 years, kids in cages, knees on necks, have opened more eyes to what was invisible to them before, namely us. And when I saw people were volunteering to walk the elderly home in Chinatown, I wept. Solidarity in finding us. Many more turns through this until we are fully human. Women's bodies, Asians' bodies, Asian American women's bodies, we've always been colonized, made small and polite, sexualized, rendered insignificant. We're always been sovereign, ancestral, powerful, wise, embodied, and our grief and rage like a torrent of love. We've always been wise women warriors. And even when subjugated, survival is a spear. I aim for the future, Ananda's future. I named her joy, divine joy, the audacity of that. Like you writing about wandering at starlight in the wake of slaughter. That is still our birthright. We are not relinquishing our birthright. Those words are powerful, inspiring. Breathing creates the space in our life, and it is fundamental to our animation. And when we love ourselves fully and completely, and when we are as love, revolutionary love, we can work through pain and grief, our healing, and even our reconciliation in a way we could not before. Then in the transition, we push and we labor to the other side. These are our inherent gift of joy. Thank you.
Eliasa, thank you so much. I was going to order this book and then I didn't. And every time I hear more about it, I think I've got to order this book and read it. She just sounds like an amazing person, and I appreciate the opportunity to breathe with you all. So how about a message from Gordon and John to finish us off?
Hello, I am here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but wanted to take this opportunity to let you know, you may already know, that John Radford has decided to leave us. He is pursuing a different kind of spiritual path. And while we are sorry to lose him, we are also excited and happy for him as he continues his spiritual growth. You know, when you start out on a spiritual path, as John did 1 year ago, you never know where it's going to lead. You may think you do, but Spirit knows what you need to know. And John has listened to that inner voice, that Christ presence we call it, that is guiding him to go a different direction. And so, John, we want you to know, I want you to know how much you are appreciated and loved. You came to us shortly before COVID started, and you have done an incredible job of navigating our music program through this last year with learning how to do technology and pre-record and all of the things that we've had to learn how to do. And we are so appreciative of you. We wish you the best, and we do hope you will keep in touch and maybe come back and sing for us once in a while. But, John, we want you to know, we behold the Christ in you, and we hold the highest for you as you continue your journey. So on behalf of Unity of Joplin and all of us individually, namaste. We behold the light of God expressing through you, and we wish you the absolute best in your ongoing journey.
Thank you, Gordon. I want to thank all of you for the relationship we've been able to forge this year through a very difficult year. A year of challenges, a year of growth, a year of learning what really matters is what's right in front of us. This year has led me to understand what's important to me. I've heard, as Gordon said, Spirit's call. And I've learned on my way, for better or worse, to answer Spirit's call. I'll be stepping forward, not entirely certain where my path will lead, but I know that I am called to serve my neighbors. I want to urge you all to listen for Spirit's call to serve your neighbors. If you live in Joplin, you understand that many of our neighbors are struggling. Some of them need a kind word. Some of them need a helping hand. And some of them truly need to be rescued. I want to urge you all to look around and see what you can do to help. Wherever you are, whatever your life looks like, whatever your neighbor looks like, see what you can do to help. Thank you to those who are already reaching out to learn and fulfill the needs of our neighbors. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your support. I want to thank my musical companions, Jerry and Gary, for blessing me with a wonderful year of good music, great conversation, and support through the struggles of 2020. I want to thank Michael for making us sound great, making us look great when we could. I want to thank you all for being my family this year. I wish I could have known some of you better. My blessing goes with you all. Thank you, and I will see you on the way.
John, we will miss your voice, but we are so thrilled that you will be sharing your voice with others, maybe around the country, around the city, wherever your voice may be heard. I know that it will be wonderful and welcomed. And speaking of welcome, if you have stumbled upon us accidentally, we are so thrilled that you're here. And I am excited to see the faces of those that stumble upon us every week. And I miss you all in person. I'm so excited for next week and our Easter opportunity to be together, and this rebirth, as it were, with spring, with the Easter season. So if you did stumble upon us accidentally and you would like to come back, we are here every Wednesday morning, heaven's sakes, every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and we are so grateful for you. And now is one of my favorite times, and that is blessing the children of our congregation, the children of our world, the children within each of us. So please join me in doing so. Children, you are a perfect child of God, and God and I love you just the way you are. And that is so true. And now, it's time for our peace song. I love this song. I'm so excited.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.